Welcome in to TWMP Daily. I'm Scott Faughn. Aaron Shrimp has joined me. And as advertised, David Barklage is here. This is going to shock you. Missouri, I don't really know how to break the news to you, but Barklage is late. Now, he does say he's coming. He said he would be 15 minutes late, and we're starting this, my watch says, about 1:36. So we have 9 minutes before he's like second late, at which we're, of course, going to call him at exactly 1:45. Aaron, it's kind of the quiet season, right? Mm-hmm. The summer of the off year is usually nothing going on. This time next summer, there'll be the primaries, which are the real elections in this state. But there was a little bit of news. So special session extended the fun for a while. The state's going to build the Super Bowl champion winning Chiefs a refurbished stadium. And they're going to build, for the tens and tens of Royals fans, I guess they're going to build them a stadium, right?
Are they? Is that what we've decided?
I don't know. There is breaking news on this.
Yeah?
From a guy named Kevin Keatsman, and I feel like I recognize his face. I don't know exactly who it is, but he says this: multiple sources tell me the Chiefs have canceled 5 real estate contracts in Kansas and are believed to be a signal to stay at Arrowhead, which I think we all probably thought was going to happen, right? I mean, people actually go to Arrowhead and watch sporting events, correct? I mean, I did this year. It was very full. I thought Arrowhead was nice, but I get it. You want to...
Sporting events, Taylor Swift, her boyfriend, concerts.
There you go.
Active place.
So the same sources that told him that said, both teams have made decisions. I asked each what they believe will happen, and they all said they think the Royals are headed to the Legends in Kansas City, Kansas, as they don't believe they can win any vote by Missouri taxpayers. Chiefs believe Jackson County voters will give them what they want, not finalize. Both teams expected to share info the next week or so. So there's multiple things about this that's hilarious to me. Number one, what an amazing job by Governor Mike Kehoe. If he's able to get rid of the Chiefs, or the Royals, and keep the Chiefs, that'll be the greatest deal in sports team history. You keep the team everyone loves that wins games, and you're going to, look, I know, you're going to disappoint up to 60, 70 people, plus the players' moms for the Royals. But what an amazing accomplishment by Governor Kehoe to get rid of the Royals. Don't you agree?
Do you know what today is? It
No.
is 6/25, so Mike Kehoe gave you a Christmas present 6 months early.
And you know what tomorrow is? It's 6/26, which would put it 4 months from the 10/26 terror attack anniversary in 1985.
You call it a terror attack. I call it the 1985 World Series where
It's
you got
both.
your butt beat. You know.
You're a Royals
Potato,
fan?
patata. Yeah. Hey, Kevin Mullally's from Raytown, Missouri.
But you look like you have your life together. You look like you're doing well. You look successful.
I'm not miserable.
Why are you a Royals fan?
I don't know. You know, I think I look better in light blue.
Okay, let me just ask you this. You seem like the type of Royals fan I know that's a Royals fan. Who started on opening day last year for you?
Did Bobby Witt play? Was he playing?
Yeah, he didn't pitch.
He wasn't pitching. You didn't say pitch. You said
well, when I said who started, that's who you
Is
told.
is it the starting
So
pitcher?
what was the last game you went to?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
It's
you
been
and
a hot
everyone
minute.
else.
It's
You
been
and
a hot
everyone else.
minute. I don't
But
live there anymore.
I'm sure if they... How many Chiefs games did you go to last year?
Oh, well, we have season tickets.
Oh yeah, you do. Oh, who'd have thought? Wow, you are the absolute most perfect Royals fan I've ever met. Maybe you've been to several Chiefs games, and do you even know where the Royal Stadium is?
Well, there's this big thing with a crown next to that place I watch football at. So
Yeah,
I think
it's as empty now as it is when you go to watch football games. Gotta thank my buddy Carl down in Versailles. Look at this Stein right here. Grub von Oktoberfest. It's getting Oktoberfest season. It is getting there. It won't be long. Gussie, we'll get the Lederhosens out.
So did the betting markets, did they come to fruition here on what the outcome was? Who won money? Who lost money?
I don't know yet, but also I just want to point out, they say they're moving to Kansas City, Kansas to a development called the Legends. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, how funny is it that a team with 3 legends is moving to a place called the Legends? I mean, you have the greatest Royal ever, Don Dinkinger. You have George Brett and Salvatore Perez, three legitimate. You have a World Series MVP. You have George Brett, who's a Hall of Famer, and Salvatore Perez, who should be a Hall of Famer. Isn't it? Don't you need more than three, though, to just move to the legends? I mean, the legends would indicate to me you have multiple legends in your franchise, not an umpire, a third baseman, and a catcher. That's not exactly. I think you might be. It's like if a German claims to be endowed, everyone kind of snickers and is like, but is he? Are you really moving to the legends with three actual legends?
The rules are different over there in Kansas.
Just lower expectations?
Yeah.
Losing's more celebrated? I like Kansas City. I love Kansas City, actually. It's so fun to go to Kansas City.
It is.
I mean, I don't watch baseball there, but nobody in Kansas City watches baseball there, so I fit in fine. The three charity games the Cardinals play there are very well attended.
Yep.
But I just got to ask you, what a great move by Mike Kehoe to be able to keep the Chiefs and dump the losers. Isn't it time they left Missouri? Isn't Kansas an appropriate place for the Royals? At the Legends?
Maybe he just thought there was only room for one losing baseball team. So...
that joke would have been funny last summer. I gotta say,
I don't even know what the Cardinals' record is, but are they winning?
They are.
Are they?
Against all odds. Who'd have thought? I mean, they still have the same crap manager. It is not a great team, but who would have even thought they are actually winning?
National League. There you go.
If you're just tuning in, David Barklage just said to join us. Wink, wink. At 1:30, he is he always gets there about 5 minutes before his frosted tips do. But he's supposed to be here in 3 minutes, at which we're going to be calling him and having a good time with us. A couple of things happened. Check this out. What a great letter. I have to give a shout out to Ken Jameson. Okay, so Ken Jameson's obviously wicked smart, right? When you talk to him, you're like, okay, this dude's up on stuff. But I didn't see funny, really, coming from Ken. Sent me this very nice note with a great PS that is really the Royals mantra. If the Royals had a team slogan, it would be the PS to Ken's letter. Ken, thank you very much. Ken's one to watch. Dude is smart, but I didn't see the funny. But that's funny. He says some stuff we can't say on the air, thanks to our friends at KRMS. But let's talk about Nathan Willett, running Kansas City Councilman, running for Tony Luetkemeier's seat. I think Nathan's a great dude, man. I think Nathan will be a solid state senator. Now, look, he has served in government. So he's got to uptick over some folks. But it does take you a minute to get up to speed in the state Senate. A guy named Chris Costard served in government, but not in the state legislature when he comes to the Senate. You have to take into account a young man, has been a city councilman, but hasn't served in Jeff City in the legislature. I think Nathan, though, once he gets his legs under him, is going to be a hell of a state senator.
Well, I think he's probably going to have a race ahead of him before he gets there.
Okay, you're from over there, obviously. You're cheering for the freaking Royals. I mean, God, I don't know how much more Kansas City you can get than that.
It's a protest vote. When you grow up in Central Missouri and you don't want to cheer for the Cardinals, it's a protest vote.
Why would you not want to cheer for the Cardinals?
Some of us just don't. We weren't born to wear that gaudy red.
To win?
To wear that gaudy red.
That gaudy red.
Jesus
heard you say that. You kiss your mother with that mouth? So I've always, my impression of the Northwest Missouri crew is they always kind of work it out in the back room. Like, who was Dan Hageman, right? Whenever they picked Hageman, everybody else quit. Whenever they picked Rusty Black, they drew the damn district with a little finger to bring Rusty in. It was over. You knew Rusty was going to win. It's just they handle their business very in-house up there. Brad Lager, when he was running, I think he had an opponent, but not really, right? I think they handled their business pretty tight. The one time they didn't, though, Schaff, when you had Schaff, it was a very contested race. That he won a primary. He kind of ran against the Northwest crew. Tony definitely had their support. He had a competitive general, but as far as the primary went, Tony was kind of the Southern District guy. Harry Roberts was the Northern District, and Tony ended up winning. I would be a little surprised if there is a primary. Now, just because Nathan Willett's running and announced, we've watched people not. But I always assume they handle their stuff kind of privately and quietly.
Yeah, there's a family.
I think Brenda Shields would be a tremendous state. You know, I'll tell you.
Family up there with a big last name that's got some notoriety.
I'm going to tell you right now. You know why Brenda Shields would be a great state senator? She can tell people no.
She's smart, and she does what. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of smart people that become state senators. Oh.
There's
a lot of smart people that are speakers as well. That's not that wasn't a planned special effect. It's humid in the summer and the tape gives away. I think Brenda Shields would be an outstanding state senator simply because Brenda will tell folks no, and that is something sorely needed in that state senate right now. I mean, there is not a great collection of spines in the state senate right now.
Yep, she might actually even tell the governor no too. So,
well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I've not seen a state senator really do that yet.
Not in this one. Not in this Senate.
I do. I mean, to me, if she runs, I assume, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't have any inside information. Nathan has talked about running. So is she. When I saw him announced, I would assume they have some sort of deal. But if they don't, I'm going to tell you, Brenda, whoever wins that seat, I hope they have the spine of Brenda Shields. And, and there's a lot you can learn by being able to tell people no. Because you have a state senate right now that the House just double birds them, and the Senate's going to have to do something to reclaim some relevancy even. You can't just get pushed around constantly
by the House
and take it. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, lower chamber.
It'll be if they run against each other. What an interesting primary.
Yeah,
Brenda's a terrific candidate. I think her husband may have won a few races up in that part of the woods.
Got some name recognition.
I think she'd be great because she can tell folks no. I think Nathan has a tremendous career ahead of him, whatever he does. But I would say a Senate that is not as relevant as it has been. I mean, also it was the dominant force that did everything was. The one thing about Eigel, right? Everything ran through the Senate. No, I mean, you knew where you were on the lobbyist chain of influence.
Live and die.
If you were out lobbying House members back in the day, you were not running the firm, right? If you were running the firm, you were lobbying the Senate where policy mattered. Oh my God, we didn't even get to call him.
I'm blinded.
There he is.
I have to put my sunglasses. I'm blinded by the good looks that are coming in right.
Oh wow, Kelton does look good today. The one and only, the dean of the Missouri Republican Party, David.
You are walking for business, aren't you?
What's up, man? See you, buddy.
How you doing?
We were talking to your picture a minute ago. Aaron, can you hand him his mic?
Oh,
we got it. Here we go.
Thanks a lot.
How was the trip in?
It was good. I didn't meet any of the men in blue, so that was sort of nice.
Well, I honestly, when you said you were going to be 15 minutes late, I was thinking 2 o'clock.
Yeah, well, it was Senator Bean. If you're south of 44, you talk a little slow. A 30-minute meeting takes 45.
Unless you're from Cape and you talk like you wish you lived in Jeffco.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, thank you so much for making the time. We were talking about the 34th.
Oh, interesting.
So I just assumed they handle that stuff in-house most of the time up that neck of the woods. But maybe more so the big district than the St. Joe Platte County district. When I saw Nathan Willett announced, I assumed they must have worked it out. Aaron says they haven't. I think you'd know. Didn't you help, what's that Shields guy's name? Charlie, I think, win a couple elections up there.
Well, if Charlie was watching this, he would say that he and Brenda won those elections, that the rest of us had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, he probably would say that.
He would say that. No, he's sort of prickly. No, I'm just kidding. I've known Charlie since college. And
speaking of, I don't care what you think about schools. That dude carried a heavy load for this state.
Oh, absolutely.
At a time of transition, at a time when you had a governor paid for by out-of-state interest, declaring war on the state senate, really, as much as anything. Mm-hmm. I don't know that this state has a finer statesman than Charlie Shields.
And look at their community service. Both he and his wife. I mean, she is her own force. It's sort of funny that people, it's like Charlie's wife. No, Brenda is not Charlie's wife. Brenda is Brenda, and Charlie is Charlie, and they are what a power couple is. They are two people, very independent, very strong, who are in love and work together.
I'll tell you the reason. I think and I thought you probably know more than anybody if she's decided not to run or still thinking about it or whatever. But I think if she did run and win, she has the one thing that Senate needs, the backbone. I mean, you watched in 1 year them start to get totally double bird flipped off, punked by the House.
Yeah.
I think a little spine's not going to be the worst thing in the world.
She is strongly independent,
I think
I
Aaron thinks she could even maybe tell Mike Kehoe no, but I've not seen a state senator do that yet. So
well, here's what I'm going to tell you is that, but was Mike Kehoe ever be wrong? So would she ever need to tell him no?
damn it, I'd like to find one time. Although we were just saluting Mike Kehoe. I read the quote where they think he was able to keep the Chiefs and dump the Royals. What an amazing governor! What an amazing governor!
I think he might keep both.
Kevin Seitzman, it looks like I would recognize him, but I don't recognize the name. He has a quote that says he's talked to several sources. He thinks the Royals are moving to a place called the Legends. How funny is that? Like, you have a team with no legends moving to a place called Legends. But what a great job by Mike Kehoe if he's able to keep the Chiefs and dump the Royals.
I think he made it possible for the Chiefs to stay, and I think it's very possible that the Royals still are in play, and it wouldn't have been in play.
Well, he's not perfect, but I think he's got a chance at being perfect.
Yeah. Well, and
tell me about Brenda Shields.
Wait a second. I want to say one other thing. Is for a diehard Cardinals fan, which now he's governor, maybe he's not. Maybe he's now just a Missouri fan.
He's just a politician now.
But my point is, there you go. That's pretty telling.
Indeed it is. It is.
But my point is, for him to show such charity to a team like the Royals, I think that just shows his real character. Now, Brenda
I'm a Republican. I don't believe in that shit.
You heard it here first. Yep. But Brenda reached out, and she said it was all right to tell Scott Faughn and let Scott Faughn break it that she is very likely to run. What she's doing right now is simply touching the bases, talking to the key people and talking to key donors to make sure that her in the race she'll win. But I expect that she will run, and I have no doubt that if she runs, that she will be competitive, if not win.
I have all the respect in the world for Brenda Shields. I truly, I couldn't name you 5 people in politics I respect more than Charlie Shields.
Well, she specifically said, when you see Scott, you tell him, and he can break it.
Thank you very much, Jake. If you're watching, Whispering Gallery information in the morning, but. I break down the race. So Harry Roberts, very good candidate, ran last time, and it looks like a similar dynamic of you have a kind of a St. Joseph anchored candidate, and then you have a Platte County anchored candidate. Tony Luetkemeyer won that race. Give me why this would be different 8 years later.
Look, I think Nathan is very talented, and he's an up and comer.
I do too.
I don't think he loses if he runs. In other words, meaning that I think he wins either way, whether or not he wins the election, because he's going to get experience. He's going to still be in the hunt in the future. I'm not sure Brenda is an 8-year person, because Brenda and Charlie have done a lot. They don't have to be there a whole lot longer, but I think Brenda cares where the state is, and she's going to make that investment now. But if in 4 years, if he loses now, he would be the front runner in 4 years. The other thing is that I think it's a Mike Kehoe win either way. I think both Nathan and Brenda would support Mike Kehoe initiatives. The key there, though, is who else gets in the race. And there's been Pouchet, there's been a couple of other names that are out there. So it could be more of a 3-way race.
Well, I remember Chris Koster runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has Margaret Donnelly, Jeff Harris, and then the last day a lady named Maggie O'Brien files, right?
Oh, yeah.
The old tricks are still the best.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you look at Jason Bean's race
that
you're just talking to. I mean, he won, quality candidate, raises money, hired a good consultant, all the boxes, and has done a good job. But it helped him a great deal that from the other part of the district, he had 3 candidates.
What do you think?
The Shields will it match?
Why doesn't Brenda Shields get someone like David Barklage to recruit 3 people from Platte County? The old ways are still good, right?
Well, I don't know if you have to. I think that because Nathan's younger and more up and comer in the party, that there's other people established that might think that they deserve it, and that he can wait. And it's not a reflection on him. I think it's just a reflection on the state of politics. So I don't think anybody has to recruit him. I think it may be a natural occurrence. And look, Tony was a lot stronger than a lot of candidates coming out of Platte County.
Mm-hmm.
And Buchanan County sticks together. And so even if it's a smaller portion, I think it'll stick together. And I think the Shields name is very well known in the region.
I think the name recognition takes her over the top. The question will be, can Nathan overperform there, and will she underperform? I think she actually will end up overperforming in Platte.
And look, if Eric Schmidt, your favorite senator, can go from a
pick the other one.
a moderate from Kirkwood can become Trump's favorite senator to the right.
Josh Hawley's the favorite senator.
I'm just saying, if Eric Schmidt can remake himself from the moderate senator of Kirkwood to the super Trump senator, I think Brenda Shields has got a strong enough record to show that she's got broad appeal.
I don't view Brenda Shields as moderate in any way.
I don't either.
I
not
view
on
her
abortion,
as
not on guns, not on spending.
I understand that's what some people say.
Yeah.
I don't follow Kansas City Council close enough to know what Nathan's.
I don't think she's nice enough to be a moderate. I think she's too tough.
I started to say that's what I was going to say. I don't. And in this world, is Donald Trump a moderate?
I hope Charlie doesn't punch me for saying that.
Well, I'm just saying.
She's tough.
I think her brand is. We were just talking before you came. I think she'll say no.
Oh, yeah.
I think she can tell somebody no, and kind of like Elaine Gannon could. Not rude, not to be a jerk, but. I understand your perspective, and I'm against you.
There's only one person who could be married to Charlie Shields and put up with him, and that's Brenda.
That's probably fair. That should be on her flyer,
that should
her little
be,
report piece.
What
do you think? Who wins?
Oh, if the race is today?
Yeah.
Race is today. I think Brenda has the edge. If the race is
going with
today.
her.
What's the percentages?
I think she knows stuff.
Do you miss Gower? They cut that eastern side of Buchanan out of there.
That's true.
Those are Shields voters, I would assume.
Yeah, but I mean, look, again, I think Brenda, a female in Platte County,
I'm with you on that.
Strong, professional, with her credentials, I think she wins a fair number of those bedroom communities over anybody from Platte County.
I think she's formidable. If you're talking about who's going to be the best senator on day one, there's no question. Yeah. She would be a tremendous senator on day one.
Yeah.
I do, and I think the Senate is going to have
that's
to have
not a slap on Nathan. I think Nathan's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
How could you be a better senator day one if she served the House 8 years? Her husband,
That's a good point.
It's a midterm race too, so I think you got to think about that. You don't have you don't have a top candidate to pull you over or tie yourself to for Nathan. So I think Brenda kind of carries it just on the credentials.
What about down to the 30th?
Well, so some people disagree with me, and I'll be interested of her view on this. But look, I ran against Brian Gellner in supporting Curtis Trent. And the district that Brian ran last time, Brian was the early favorite, but Curtis ended up winning. And it wasn't, I think, Brian's fault. I think Brian was running the wrong district. I told him then, I felt that the district he was running in was more favorable to a rural candidate like Curtis. Mm-hmm. And Curtis is law degree and everything else. He can sell both in rural and suburban areas. But I think Gellner, he is a very solid guy, a very solid fundraiser, a very solid manager. And personally, in the general election, I like his odds because I think the business community down there likes someone of his profile, but he's not so extreme to turn him off. I think he's the right balance to the grassroots and the other.
Right. Very, very good Democrat candidate in Betsy Faughn.
Yeah.
I mean, the best recruit they've had in a while. In a swing seat like
that. And
that.
it's going to be a tough year.
Yeah, I think number one, if there was no primary, I would say by a small margin. I think they're both quality Republicans, but Betsy's the favorite. And part of that, let's be honest, is Brian Fogel, her father. Part of that is the legacy that that she benefits from. And part of that is she's a female candidate who is aggressive, works hard, and very well liked. But I hear there's an event tomorrow night for Melanie Stinnett.
Yeah.
I heard there's a guy coming. You may have heard of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I think he might be Mike Kehoe.
I think Mike Kehoe is gracious and is going to, try to go out and just sort of help the team, whether or not it's one person or another on the team. And I'm not speaking for him.
Well, it is a big seat, right? I mean, if you're talking about seats that could fall, I would put that at the top of the list.
In any world, Mike Kehoe is going to be, very engaged after the primary, most likely, and no matter who it is. And I'm sure that, he wants to keep that seat. He's going to do the right things and for the right reasons.
All right, give me, you're speaking to Gellner, maybe could have helped him with his campaign. Melanie Stinnett announced last month, maybe the end of May, but I don't. Yep. But a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
At what point do you, probably time to make your announcement and get after it?
Yeah, look, I think Gellner is a manager.
And he also can self-fund, which you can announce later, I assume.
Yeah, but more importantly, I think that his family dynamic, his business dynamic, all those things, he's a major hitter. And to that regard, balancing those things out and bringing his campaign on when he's fully committed.
First of all, he lives in the district now, right? That's a big thing.
Absolutely. But Brian last campaign, he got in late. But when he was in all the way. I mean, again, I competed against him. And
when is late?
Well, late is when you look in March. You haven't laid groundwork or anything else. And he got in late. He's getting in now. I'm talking about.
But take this race out of it. If you have a competitive primary for state senate, when is it getting late to announce?
I think September
Right.
of this year. Yeah.
I do think there's a little bit of July. Folks are not thinking
You
about
got to get
politics.
early enough so that you get that sort of second to third quarter in, because when you get to fourth quarter, you got October, but November and December sort of cut you out, and if you're legislature, then you're screwed, with sessions. So to me, the sweet spot is August and September.
But there is activists and stuff that they want to be part. They like politics.
They do.
I think you lose some of those people the longer you wait. They commit to the other side, right?
But a campaign's grueling. You know this. I mean, you and I both have been in office, and to that regard, no one wishes a 2-year campaign on anybody, or even a year and a half.
So at what point did Brian Gellner, if he hasn't announced by Labor Day veto session, you're like, okay, maybe he's making the same mistake twice?
Oh, look, I think Brian will announce before September 1st, probably in early August.
That makes sense.
That's my guess.
Not during the state fair, though, because no Republican would do that.
No one would do that.
Or do it at the state fair, which,
Sacrificial.
Good point.
Yeah, that makes...
What do you think?
About that district?
Yeah.
Every once in a while we have these districts where I get frustrated because I would love to have both Melanie and Betsy in the Senate. But that's just not how the.
I think Melanie's been
not,
a very
just
good
not how.
legislator.
That's just not how.
Explain
this
to me
works.
this.
Yeah.
In a swing district, which I think you can say the
Wouldn't it
30th.
be if we could have open Senate enrollment?
I mean, you
Yes.
have kind of an effeminate senator in Lincoln Huff.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
There
feminine.
now.
Very.
but
Betsy is much more manly than Lincoln.
I
Either
would
one
just
of them.
say, more hair product for sure with him than the other two, for certain.
Yeah,
He does have good
all
hair.
three.
You agree with that? Lincoln has good hair?
I mean, if we're in the Central West End,
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
He
if we're
doesn't
in
have
Central
Greg,
Stoddard County,
he doesn't
maybe
have
not.
Greg Keller hair or Jack Oliver hair.
Well,
There's only
why
one.
in a
One of one there.
Yeah, that's true.
I always felt like in a swing district, and look, the world has changed.
Mm-hmm.
In a swing district, a Republican woman was better.
Yeah. I mean,
Is
look,
that changing? Is it still the case?
Roseanne Bentley,
Yeah.
Norma Champion.
Sarah Stillman
it's
beat
good.
Mike Leibheimer.
Yeah.
But it's a little different here. Again, I'm just telling you that Springfield has two groups. It has the activists and the business community. And I think Melanie's record is challenging in the activist community, and she's not really connecting the business community. And that's not diminishing her. I think she's very solid. But I'm just saying is that in knowing Springfield like I do, Brian has the business community, and he has the potential to get the activist community. I think it's going to come down to whoever runs the better campaign. And to that regard, we'll see.
Let's bounce around the 16th. You go Sam Stillman and Rolla all the way. You pick up Hardwick, maybe Mayhew. I tend to think Jeff Knight doesn't run. You have Hannah Kelly over in Wright County.
Hannah's a non-factor.
Well, unless she raises money, right? If she comes up with and raises money, that changes.
That would be something different, and she's
I
not
agree.
from the best part of the
That
district.
was a
She's
nice
she's not from the best part of the district.
You caught that, didn't
I'm
you?
going to use that one. That was
If
something
she happened to
different.
raise $250,000,
Yeah.
well, that changes. But I agree, she's not from the best part of this district.
Yeah.
That's just a fact, and she has not had a record of raising money. Jeff Knight, I think, could be a factor, but I think he's leaning toward not running. Seems to me like. If you have Sam Stillman, you're really hoping Mayhew and Hardwick both run from Pulaski County, right?
Well, even without them both running, Pulaski County is challenging because it's a federal county, meaning that it has good turnout in the general election, but because of the large population related to the military base, primary turnout is always miserable. And that's why, if you think about it, Sarah Stillman, Dan Brown, Dan Brown's son, what's his name?
Oh, gosh, what is his name?
The guy that's in there now.
Tyrone?
Ben?
Yeah, something
Tyrone,
like that.
yeah.
Ben? No, it's not Ben. It's
Oh.
the other Brown.
Just
Oh, yeah.
Justin, you got
Justin
it.
Brown,
Yeah.
that's right.
So-
Yeah, my bad.
finally,
Anyway,
we got there. We got there.
The veterinary son. No, but anyway, Rolla has dominated that district. And so you have Rolla and you have Marys County. They vote together. You have
Dent County's in there?
You have Dent County, and
Which is
so
a
that's
Rolla
just
county?
that's got Stillman name on
Well,
it.
Dorman, Stillman, I've got this great matchbook. Somebody gave me. Dorman was actually from Dent County.
That's correct. Well,
That's where he
I
is.
used to go. I picked up David Limbaugh when David practiced with David Stillman in Salem.
Really? There's
We
a
put
story.
up signs together.
Is
We
it?
put up, and I ran out of gas.
Is this a David Barklage story
So
you
David
haven't
Limbaugh and
heard?
I had to hike. Yeah,
I
we ran
didn't
out of gas.
know he practiced. I have multiple questions for David. First of all, why is your top button buttoned?
Well, I was
Are you just trying to freak people out?
No, I was just trying to have a different style,
This is different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it looks good.
Yeah, thanks.
It's in the same way that you said Hannah was a good candidate. I think it's a good look.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
In the
that.
same vein.
The new phrase of the day. It is different.
I think Laclede County, if Sam Stillman focuses in Laclede County early, I think it's hard to beat him. The Stillman name is very well known. You've got two media markets there that make it a little challenging, Springfield and Jeff City. But the point, Stillman should be able to raise as much or more money than Hardwick. But I think Hardwick is solid, respected.
Yes.
There is nothing I've heard about him.
He has the best backstory. I mean, he can talk. He's like Andrew Bailey. When he talks, people talk about his war record. It's legitimate.
I mean, I think it's really between those two. But I think demographically and historically, I would give anybody from Rolla. If Hardwick was from Rolla and Sam was from somewhere else, was from Laclede, or particularly from Fort Leonard Wood, of that area, I would always give it to the person out of Rolla. So I think geographically and demographics and geographics are number one consideration in a primary, and to that regard, I think the geographics are favorable to Sam.
I don't know what the number is. I'll give you two predictions. My stein of knowledge. Look at this. Right there.
Wow.
Buddy in Versailles sent me that.
That is a big mug.
Indeed it is.
I don't think I could even pick that up with both hands.
Well, you can't fill it to the top and pick it up.
Hands.
Yeah, you got to. It's not that full, so I can lift it.
Baby hands.
Yeah. I think there is a number that Steelman could reach in fundraising that would allow him to so saturate Laclede County that he couldn't lose. I think if he has the resources, there's a number he gets to that I don't think he can be beat in Laclede County.
I agree.
I think Don Mayhew will end up, before it's over, getting more votes. He'll surprise people how many votes he gets.
Fair enough.
I think they're going to attack each other. He's going to get some runoff. Also, Don does have a lot of personal connections, and you get to know Don. You like, especially that business guy with a few.
I don't know, but Hardwick impresses me, and
Absolutely.
and Sam's impressive.
I think people are giving
Two
Don
very good
credit.
candidates.
I don't know that Don's got a path to victory right now, unless he wants to put a bunch of his own money in, which is I think Don could put his own money in. You'd be
Who are you
surprised.
betting on?
Yeah, it's interesting. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that Warrensburg Bratton's reelection a little bit from last cycle. You just have two candidates that are too close that are going to split one group and not give each other a chance, I think, against a
the
fairly
numbers were
well-known.
really hard there. Coming out of out of Johnson County, it's almost impossible.
It reminds me of that dynamic a little bit. I think you're right. I think the Steelman name is just going to saturate that market.
I think I'd rather be I'd rather be Stillman than anybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't, because then David Stillman is your dad.
Well, yes,
And
but
I know he's not watching because he works too hard, but if he was, I hope he appreciates that comment. I know Sam would. And I know Sarah does.
I think there is an amount of money he raises that allows him to get his share and a little more out of Laclede County.
Yeah.
And if you add his base and he gets a good chunk of Laclede County, that's a very good.
If Sam's parents weren't so cheap, and they just wrote a check or they just raised the money he needs, between them and Sam, there should be not a question. But they are pretty tight and pretty cheap.
Well, one,
You can't get a penny out of
there's
Stillman.
a couple things that's wrong with that. I think they've financed races before, and we're talking about Joe, not Sam. Although, here's the thing.
That's right. I'm so
Everybody
sorry. God, did I say that?
A lot of people do this.
Joe, I am so sorry. I know I say Sam.
There's a lot of folks that talked about Sam running for a long time.
Yeah.
And Joe really didn't talk about running until lately.
Well, that's what
and
makes
now
him
he
so
is.
dangerous, because Sam looked like the part, and Joe all of a sudden is like the serious guy doing it. And God, you look at his. I mean,
He's taking it
being
seriously.
an economist from University of Chicago. I mean, it doesn't get more academically challenging than that. And so why someone as smart as him is running is questionable. But outside of that, the guy is a very serious contender. And to that regard,
And I think you're thinking of the wrong Steelman being the one that'd be the most aggressive on the campaign side. I think Sarah is the one who would be like, what are you doing? Did you get this done? Did
Oh,
you
God,
do this?
yeah.
Did you do this?
yeah, but David's still a pain in the butt.
Yeah, that's been.
I can't say anything
no
bad
question.
about Sarah and David, so I got to pick one or the other, and I'd rather have David mad at me than Sarah.
That's an easy call.
Yeah.
So what about the 8th? The Republicans have somebody? Because, look, I think Kerry Ingle's a good candidate. I don't know if the 8th is ready to totally go Democratic yet. I think it's going to take the right year to turn that seat, and maybe the right year is developing. The Republicans, there's a gentleman, I don't want to say his name wrong, Takamina?
No, I'm not going to help you here.
Yeah,
You've not been that kind to me, so you're on your own. Don't help him.
I'm going to butcher it.
Do not help him. Say that again 3 times.
Carrie Engel, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Look, I mean, what's your feeling? Let you go first.
Yeah, it's your neck of the woods. You're a Royals fan.
Yeah. I mean, Carrie took a ton of very smart votes this past session for her district. I thought she had a lot of great floor speeches. I don't know that you find a better candidate to flip that seat in Carrie, to be quite honest. And you would have to come up with, I think.
I think
you're right.
I
think she's a great candidate. I don't think that could be overstated. What I think is being overstated by some folks is the least summit ready to flip.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not sure it is.
Here's your real comparison.
Suburbs are always going to be. Yeah, I think they are flipping out there, man.
I don't know
whichever way the wind is.
Here's the deal.
I think Springfield flips for Lee Summit.
Here's the deal. The 15th is very much like the 8th and the district in Springfield. For example, Springfield is anchored by the precincts around Evangel College. Those are hardcore, and there's a lot of cats and dogs. But the precincts that are large on the east side and of Evangel are huge numbers. And so Springfield may not be heavily Republican, but it is heavy enough in almost every election to win. Trump carried that district. And so if Trump carried that district, I think a Republican can win it even in a tough year. But the 15th, everybody said, oh, we're going to lose the 15th. Gregory can't do it. And he slammed it pretty good.
Yeah.
But more importantly is that the 15th, same way. There's just enough Republicans that's hardcore. It's hard to hit to go that ceiling if you're a Democrat. So I would argue that the 15th, the 8th, and the Springfield district are all sort of have a hard cap on a Republican in a competitive race of 53, 54. It's marginal, but it doesn't go below that very often. I mean, look, we've had some very strong Democrats win that district and some very weak Republicans, but we've won it again and again and again. And our demographers a long time ago pointed out the problems for the Democrats in Springfield are those Republican precincts that are huge, and that all the rest of the precincts are cats and dogs. There's a few Democrats, a few Republicans here and there, but the transformative precincts are Republican.
I feel like Betsy could flip Springfield before the 8th. I see the 8th as trending. I think I'd rather the next time the seat's up, I think it's more likely to be competitive. But the world has changed a lot since Trump came around. I don't know that Lee Summit's ready to flip yet. But I do think the Republicans, you can't hold the seat with nobody. Who's the candidate?
Well, I think. Don't you think John Patterson considers it?
I think the race is over if John Patterson runs.
I think that Jenny Monheiser is in that district, and she's very powerful. She's got a great story.
Dan Stacy's been around.
Dan Stacy, you've got him in there.
Nobody thought Joe Nicola would win his.
You've got this the other guy, Aaron Baker.
The physician, right?
No, but I think Aaron has talked to the physician, but also is it Jeff Carver, the guy who's a underground cable guy, who looks very solid. I haven't met him, but I read his deal. So I think Axiom, led with Aaron, is doing a really good job, trying to recruit someone. And in fact, I think Jenny, Aaron knows, I think 3 of those that knows very well, and John Patterson also has that relationship. But so I think Republicans will come with a very strong candidate.
Jenny's an impressive woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If she wants to do this, she's very impressive.
I agree. Do you know Jenny?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What about here in Cole County? You got Rudy, you got Derek Spicer, you got maybe Skelton, maybe Beckett from the Lake. It's 53% now Cole, Montauk, and 47% the rest, the Lake area. Your word out, we might not have seen the last candidate announcing that.
So, I think if you get a candidate who is a prominent, business leader who has a good name and can consolidate.
Like a German name, you're thinking?
Consolidate.
Maybe like an Army Ranger?
I'm going to type
has
this
an
in.
Army background. I think you consolidate Cole County. I think Rudy is a very decent and a very learned state representative. And I think that Derek is doing a really good job on city council.
You willing to bet like a Coke on that?
But I think a Coke from Vogel Distributing would be good at this time. But in all seriousness, I think Cole County is the dominant factor here, and I think you have to consolidate the race. So you need a candidate who can do that. I had the pleasure and honor, actually, of working for Carl Vogler and recruiting him and going through against Bill Gratz and his 8 years, including having a diapered chief of staff of Bubs O'Hoolan, no fooling. But point is that Carl really did a lot for the community. He was never that partisan, never that ideological. He was very community driven. I think Jake, if he were to decide to get into that race, would be the same. And I think that's really good to have someone like that for Kehoe in the Senate and for the community in the Senate.
What about Katie Ashcroft? I have interviewed her. Mm-hmm. I like the hell out of Katie Ashcroft. She's very, very personable.
If she would have run, I don't know if Mike Kehoe would have beat her versus Jay.
I honestly think she would have got more votes.
I'm not sure I would have voted for Kehoe at that point.
Well, I mean, one of us supports Mike Kehoe. I mean, I would have. You know. I don't know who Aaron voted for, but
yeah, who'd you vote for in that?
I wasn't living here at the time. I don't think so. I can vote for.
That's crystal clear.
I supported Kehoe, but I'm just saying that was because
I took a Republican ballot for the first time, as you know the story, back in August, and I voted for Mike Kehoe.
You're voted when
it counts.
You're coming around. Just
when it
get in the habit of it. Get in the habit of it.
When it counted.
So many Democrats that told me during last summer, they were like, oh, Kehoe's got to win. You can't have the other two. And I was like, well, I understand how you feel that way. And yes, Mike Kehoe will not piss you off on Facebook like the other two. No. But he's actually going to put a bunch of big wins you're not going to like on the board. And he is.
Personally, I like Bill Eigel. He has kept any deal he's done with me.
Yeah.
And so Jim Lemke, who works with him, a lot of people.
I like Bill Eigel and understand what other people don't. I get both sides.
I do too, but I'm just saying, and like Jim Lemke, I think Jim Lemke is one of the loyalist foot soldiers, and my opinion is that people diss on him because he does what his bosses want, and that just means he's that much good of a worker.
Nobody disses on you if you suck.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, everyone that hates you, you probably beat them in something.
So But look, I don't. I think if a Coca-Cola distributor, legacy candidate who cares about his community and who's served in the armed forces were to run, if that would happen, if there was someone that fits that profile, I think Katie would defer to it. Katie, I think, has that sense of community and things. I mean, being married in the Ashcroft family is.
But she's a zizzer from West Plains, which I respect.
Yeah, you gotta like that.
Northeast Missouri, that Sarah Graff seems like she's gonna be tough to beat.
Yeah, what's interesting to be the dynamic because you've got 3 candidates in there.
Who you got?
Well, you got Sharp. Oh, I don't have anybody.
Is Sharp running? And
I had picked up that maybe John Ashcroft and John Prouty in that race. I don't know, but look,
Hancock.
Yeah, John Hancock. I'm sorry. I think that Greg presents an interesting choice. I did Munsinger's race, coming from that same area, and it was very strong. I think that I've heard a lot of good. Derek Coates, a friend of mine, just loves her to death, thinks the world of her, and I know a lot in Sam Graves' world, they think the world of her.
I think Cindy O'Loughlin's in that
and she's from my wife's home county from what do you call it?
So you're saying nice person, maybe not that good at judgment.
No, I'm saying, good point. I am saying that actually. But I think her and Greg are
Blue, Sophie's person. Yeah.
So, and Sophie's, a really good operator. I think that you're going to expect some really good campaigns by her.
I don't think that's her. I don't think that district is quite. I think she's better in a suburban district or a place where you got a population that's
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think she gets it on both sides. I think she's a young, upcoming talent. But I think in that race, if Greg and if 2 of them focus on one, and if you brought up Butler County last time, or that district, of Bean's district, Bean and the lead candidate in that was our friend Eddie Justice.
Sure.
And Bean and
Sean
Cookson, they sort of joined together and focused until the end on Eddie, and as a result, it sort of dropped Eddie down, and it was between those two, Jeff Sean and Bean, and Bean won. I think the same thing is dynamic up there. I think if Sharp and her focus against the third candidate, it'd be one of those two at win. I think if those two focus against each other, Sophie could get a win out of it.
I think if anybody could, she could. I think some of her bigger successes have been, she's got a little bit of a population center. That is one of the few districts of the state senate that doesn't really have a population center. Let's talk about a place that does. The last one's the 22nd, Jeffco. When after they elected McKenna, they only went up from there. But you've got Kenny Waller, Renee Reuter. Do they run?
No.
So it's Castile, Jim.
Kenny is such a decent guy.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy.
He's done his service. He's getting to a point where I think he needs to look at his health, family, and where he wants to serve. I think he could run for county exec. He can run for Senate. He can run for re-election. I don't think he has to be in a hurry, and I think it's good for Kenny that he actually has a chance.
Director of Labor he'd be.
Yeah, he could be. But I like Kenny.
I do too. I like Renee. She run?
Maybe. She's been looked at running for judge. She's a force of nature. She would be an interesting dynamic in that race. If her and Castile and Avery are in, if she and Castile triangulated against Avery, it'd make it hard for him. It's hard to know if Avery right now, again, a Sophie race, if Avery is better off with one person or with multiple people in that race.
I think Avery's better off with multiple. I think. If you look at Jim, he's got to put some money in. I've known Jim Avery for a long time. I put everybody in the same camp. No matter how rich you are, let's see you put it in, and then we mentioned Chuck Gastenberger, right? I remember who's,
by the way, is running in
the 16th.
Yeah, 16th.
No, the 6th.
Yeah.
Chuck put a bunch of money into his state senate race when he ran against Onder in St. Charles County. He didn't spend it. I'm a believer. I got to see you not just put it in, because you can go get a mortgage and put money in. I got to see you spend the money.
Oh, he spent it. He did.
Chuck spent the money?
He spent the money.
I got to see, let's say Jim Avery, who says he's putting money in. I have no doubt he will. Yeah. Let's see him put it in. But he has a base of folks who are trained to give, who do give, who had a big conference last weekend that I talked to a lot of people at. I think Jim's going to raise his money from a source that's not going to give to Castile, and probably, frankly, not Renee.
Look, that's going to be a race where I think you've got several big donors going to line up on both sides, and so
I think I'll do you one different. This is going to be a race. The business community has gotten pushed and pushed by the trial attorneys and pushed and pushed and pushed. Now it's passing a tort reform bill is almost impossible in the state senate. In the business community, it's like, okay, if you're not going to stand up here, where you have a legit business guy in Castile who's with you on all the stuff, which against a guy who's
clearly
whose
not
job it is, who makes his income, suing you, if you don't step up, you look like a paper tiger, and I think they're close to having that reputation anyway.
Look, I think the business community has been a bunch of pussies about this.
I think that's just fair.
The state chamber, I remember when we were trying to take over the state chamber, and I love Dan Meehan, but we would be getting $1,000 from him and $1 million against us from the trial bar, and not a lot has changed. And I think that Jeff Davis, Rich Abishon, those guys, they are as tough as you can get, but they don't have control of the kind of resources. And so I hope you're right, but to that regard, I don't know yet. I think it's going to be charters and public education. It's going to be gray market. It's going to be other interests weighing in there. Hopefully the business community weighs in.
Charters weigh in for Castile?
I think so.
I mean, the truth, I think you saw this with Kehoe, is the charter school idea is time has come. Mike Kehoe's basically said 2027, this is what we're doing. I've not seen the guy lose yet. I think the way you lose, it's like Bill Eigel and Jay Ashcroft would have been for charter schools, right? They would have, I would be a lot less confident they get it done, because the chaos, it kills stuff like, it makes those kinds of things impossible to happen.
Getting the building, I want to hear Aaron's thoughts on this, but I'll just say this. There is the third leg of education that this state has been woefully behind in. There is the charter schools choice. There are the public schools, which are represented by a divergence of interests that care more about themselves. And I would argue the principals, I have friends in all those, the superintendents, the MSTA, NEA, and they're...
I'm at my corn, man. I mean,
but I'm just saying...
I got money for this dude. They got too much money.
But I'm just saying is that they have tended to narrow their interest less about the kids' education and more about what the interest of their principals. I would argue reform is the third leg that hasn't been. There hasn't been a reformist effort that has brought the private, brought charters, public charter schools, brought private parochial, brought homeschoolers, and public school reformists together to say, we've got to take care of public education. And I think there's a lot of us, like you and I, that were in public education, that want to see the public schools succeed, that charter schools are an innovator. Charter schools are an interrupter. Charter schools are meant to challenge public schools where they're failing. But that doesn't answer the problem of public schools failing, and we need to have someone take up the reform mantle.
I agree with all that. I think that a aggressive school choice bill is harder to do if the Senate's in chaos. And I think Jim Avery will be there to put the Senate in chaos. And I think that and he'll be very good at it. And it'll advantage him. And there are people now who are kind of getting along with leadership and moving things forward who will come over to Jim's side in that. I think some of that stuff's going to be hard to do.
I think Jim from day one would be very talented for that constituency. I do. I think he would hit the ground running.
I agree with all that.
He's got a lot of talent. I think he would do very well. What's your sort of view on
my
that?
prediction on this is that the way that we're talking and as I'm thinking on the fly here, I think that is our most expensive primary.
You think on the fly? I thought you were pretty much prepared.
I just think if the business committee doesn't show up.
That's our most expensive primary.
Just he probably caught you off the street, but I think you're still ahead of me.
This morning.
I kind of did catch your grand.
Caught me literally off the golf course.
I got a question for you, Dave Barklage.
Uh-oh.
I think that charter
He's
schools,
grabbing in for a picture. I'm like, uh-oh, that could be from our past.
Well, I'd have to.
Well,
don't keep pictures from like that.
David, we don't look in the drawers around here for numerous reasons.
That's very smart.
If you do, put a glove on. Yeah. But I asked Mike Keogh this. So I think charter schools, this time has come. It's what people want. It's what's going to happen. However, you're going to do income tax next year, right? Get on the path to zero, all wonderful things, good stuff. At some point, I watched this committee they put together that's going to endorse what Keogh wants. The Thalhuber Commission, as I call it. See this map? You're familiar with this map, aren't you?
Just a little bit.
This is a map of the media markets. Kelton, can you come in on this? This is the media markets of the state of Missouri. If you'll notice, the red voted for Mike Keogh, and if you'll notice, outside of where he actually lives, the second place that voted for Keogh would be our neck of the woods.
That's right.
In southeast Missouri. Now, all these folks that voted for Mike Keogh, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of gravel roads, a lot of Willow Springs schools, a lot of Palmyras.
Oh, yeah.
How do you pay for more charter schools in St. Louis without forcing, for Bill Eigel voters, which is the blue part, without forcing all the Keogh voters to raise their levies?
It's a hard math question. Should be on somebody's math test.
Somebody gets screwed, and around here, let me just tell you, around this state right now, if you don't live on I-70, this Republican Party thinks you are scum.
Except I'm going to
If I had to guess who gets the shaft in this, it won't be the Eigel voters.
Well, I'll just tell you this, though, that charter schools are charter public schools. So they're all public schools.
Going to be one in Dexter?
And the question is,
where they voted for Bill Eigel? Or,
you know what I'd want to see in a charter school in rural Missouri? One that actually challenges the public schools and brings back excellence in education. The public schools have abandoned the best and brightest students to dumb down everybody. It's the number one issue, whether it cuts in literacy or anything else.
I agree with you.
And if I were doing a rural school, a charter school, I would make it
You'd be doing the first
I'd
one.
have comparative religion, I'd have patriotism, and I would have the basics. I would have STEM, and I would make it as hard as you could ever imagine, so every parent who actually wanted their kid to succeed and every kid that had talent would gravitate to that school. And the people who gravitate to school would be the ones that are at the top of their class. Charter schools have been relegated in the cities to covering where the worst problems are. What about coming into the rural areas where students are being dumbed down and denied the opportunity?
David, are you going to put it in Glen Allen or Marble Hill? Which one of them are you going to put it in?
Well, you know what? I sort of like Marble Hill.
Yeah, okay. I mean, me too. Put it up by the
Dog
bank.
and Suds. You got to be near one.
I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. That they're going to do it. I hope I don't dump on rural people to do it.
Why can't we get a national ag nonprofit to come in and open up a sponsor a charter in Southeast? And there you go.
The rural schools, you and I both know, are under duress. I don't know why.
Cutting their funding isn't going to help.
If it's teachers, if it's funding.
It's all of it.
Look, you know what I'm really tired of? I am tired, and I have friends that are going to yell at me tonight if they watch this, superintendents. I know Chris Straub, who is just one of the great educators in the state. And I get to see him a lot of times. I'm here. I get Scott Kimball's dad, Bert Kimball, both former superintendents.
I like all the superintendents too.
They're just amazing.
Mr. Turner. But I'll tell you, every time I bring up Cornman, and I'm like, defend that. and they're like, well, that's not great.
But I'm just saying is that public education in the areas where you and I went to school, and where did you go to high school? Did you go to the Catholic high school?
High school.
He's lived in St. Louis too long. He's starting to ask that
Where'd
question.
you go? And ironically, I went to the Catholic high school here.
But they're
so
under real
there we
duress,
go.
and I'm just telling you that it may be a time that they need a challenge to help them be better.
Well, but
I
to your
agree with
point,
everything
David,
you're
the curriculum is rigid. That's part of the reason people like charter schools is because you can innovate. You could come
Love
in
it all.
and you
Love
could
it all.
you
I
could
agree
come
with
in
you.
with a new curriculum
It's time.
But
It
that
needs to
meets the
happen.
We're
needs
what-
of the student,
Yeah.
which is what the model has been in the urban
Right
centers.
now, the percentage
Oh,
the percentage of this money that goes to these red areas.
He does
right?
not like
that goes to the red areas.
Yeah.
David, let me ask you a prediction.
That's
here.
water
Go
in
wrap
there.
up.
I
This
thought
is,
you were more of a
know
man.
what,
I'm not that much of a man. Ask
Well,
around.
I don't want to get
By
started
the way,
on
Scott Faughn-
I don't want to get started on how socialism works, but that's when you disperse
Scott Faughn
money.
Spoken like a suburban.
Scott Faughn has agreed to go to the Mayo Clinic for
yeah.
a checkup,
Agreed
and I'm
to. I'm
very
happy.
proud of him
Yeah.
because a lot of guys with his career pressures on don't ignore their health, and I'm glad that you care enough about yourself to do
I
that.
think I've reached the age where I
I'm
was
proud of you.
tickled.
I'm very proud of you.
Last thing, prediction. Do the schools in the red that voted for Kehoe get the same percentage of the education budget they get today, or as what some people, not myself, but a person might fear that just watched the I-70 special session, that the Kehoe voters will get screwed and be paying for the Eichel voters' charter schools?
You answer first.
Will that
Oh,
happen?
goodness.
Will Willow Springs get the same percentage of DESE's budget 5 years from now that they do today?
Under
Under the new plan.
what we the
Under
plan
the Faughn
you're
Commission
asking,
Kehoe plan.
we have a school. The governor has a school funding problem. I don't know that it's clear how he's going to address it yet. That's how I'm going to answer.
Well,
the
I know.
question.
I know. Hold it, Aaron.
Not
Bernie
answering
Mule's
the
gonna get
question.
that percentage.
You're unbiased here. Where would the governor get another $500 million that might help pay for schools?
Well, we have all these untaxed
I've got a Stein up there that I was
machines,
given.
Yeah.
gray machines
Huh.
sitting in your convenience stores and your gas
Listen to this.
stations,
I knew.
and you're getting zero tax revenue.
You know, folks, Missouri,
Zero
this is why you hire
tax
these
revenue.
two. That was so well done. We're not going to top it.
I'm gonna say one last thing. I am tired of the educrats saying that Republicans have switched and baited them on education. I looked at the records, and prior to the Republicans taking control of the legislature, there was a lot of switch and bait. But since the Republicans in, education funding has gone up almost without exception, and is higher as a percentage of the overall budget, higher in general under Republicans. And to that regard, the answer from Mike Kehoe is Mike Kehoe is going to do what's right for education and make sure that
no
there
one's
is an
answering my question?
equalization that all schools are benefited. How about that?
Well, that's
And
bullshit.
can we cut it off now?
All right. So
He's going to have $500 million
Yep.
more
what
when Gray
I'm
Marcus
saying is
are-
Willow
are-
Springs better keep their head on a swivel. The Bernie Mules better watch their back. Sykeston better keep their eye out. New Madrid County Central, watch out. Thank you very
and
much.
have a Coke. We'll all
We're
all
celebrate
gonna
with a
have
Coca-Cola.
Coke.
Going to have one now,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
Also, thanks to the Courtyard by Marriott, the greatest, the new hotel in Jeff City. If you actually care about your guests, put them up there. If you kind of want to get rid of them, if it's like the uncle you don't want to visit very often, go somewhere else.
I just stayed in my car last time.
It's not a coincidence. That lady's house you were stalking, they probably didn't notice you. Till
You know,
4 or
I'm
5 in the
happily
morning.
married to my wife, the love of my life. So I'll just say, Audra, I hope if you're
I
watching.
just thought you were doing op research on some
no,
candidate.
I'm happily married. Yeah.
And then with the United 5 from the Great Northwest. Thank you, Aaron Tripp, for the time, even though you didn't answer my question.
As a good politician, doesn't.
I will tell you,
I'm running her campaign.
I actually think Mike Kehoe sat in that chair, and he said, no, the people in a rural school will get the same amount of money. I actually believe him. Now, maybe I'm the
I
dumb
believe
kid in the
anything
room,
he
but
says.
me too. I don't.
And I really believe anything Carol or Claudia say. Those are the two I
The
believe.
First
Yeah.
Lady, right?
Yeah, and as long as they're around, I know Mike will not say anything
There
other
you
than
go.
David, you do like the First Lady.
Yeah?
That is very
Oh.
well.
Oh, you call her the First Lady. I tell everybody to call her the First Lady, and I heard you put on a shirt the First
I
Lady.
did.
even.
She
God,
needed something to wear.
She hates that.
She showed up to a Cardinal game in a pink shirt, and I felt bad for her. So I bought her a Cardinals jersey, And I thought since she's already not going to like the jersey, we'll put First Lady on it.
Oh, that makes
and
sense.
58, none of which I think she was that.
So think about
she
this
sent me a
family.
very sarcastic letter in the mail, though, thanking me for
She's
it.
a Cubs person.
Thanking me.
She's a Cubs, and he's Cardinals, yet they're helping the Royals. The first couple's helping the Royals. So that just shows their class. But I just got to say this. You got to love a First Lady who doesn't want to be the First Lady. I mean, she just wants to be married to the governor and watch him succeed.
It's a very sweet spot, though. I've watched spouses that didn't like it to the point where it was hurtful to their spouse running, and I've watched spouses that loved it so much it was almost hurtful. There's a sweet spot in there, and I think she's in the Hall of Fame of political spouses.
If you ever have her on a show, ask her what she did to me about a week before the election and telling that it would be my responsibility to make sure that Mike won. It's like, oh, I don't want any pressure. She came by my office to deliver that message. I'm like,
dude, that would suck.
Oh, God. I
don't know.
Yeah.
Checked into a facility after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no one's answering my question, so we're going to quit. Thank you so much, David Barklage. I always appreciate the time. Thank you for being in studio. Aaron, thank you so much for on the fly joining us here. And we will be back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock, right, Kelton? Jamie Corley? We're going to try to play a game. It's the kind of thing that's going to go really great or just going to go so bad it's going to be funny. One of those two things. And then on the show Sunday, we are going to have a full panel, fun folks. Sharon Jones is going to join us.